Yeah, absolutely. I think for my particular focus and personality, I could not have been blessed with two more loving and encouraging parents, and both did equal parts respectively towards developing and nurturing my sense of confidence and just, I think, belief that I could actually make this lifestyle a reality.
Yeah.
My mother always very much, she always sort of said, I always felt like I had to try to like fight to win my parents' approval, and I never wanted to do that to you. I just wanted to make sure that you felt good as a person and knew that you were, loved, and whatever you decided to do was going to be okay by us. That's huge for any kid to know that like it's all right by mom and dad, and you don't have to like struggle to be something that maybe you're not or something like that. So, going into the arts, that's great, knowing that, cool, I can be as freaky as I want, and that, I'm still all right inside. And my dad, more specifically, was very encouraging in trying to share his love and passion for drumming and music with me, and saying, if you want to make this, a real serious part of your life, know that you've got, the talent and certainly the discipline, because he could hardly tear me away from the things when I was little. To do it. So just, believe in yourself and go for it. Yeah, and give it all you've got. Keep working, keep learning from people, And those two combined things, I think, helped give me the sense that, like, even if things didn't work out with music, it would be okay in some venue, but, like, I would most certainly have a chance to do this thing which I really deeply wanted to do, that I never felt like it was, my father trying to live vicariously through me, or, my mother just kind of going like, oh, whatever, just do what you want, there's nothing, hope for you anyway. It wasn't anything like that. The
approval was always there.
The approval was there, but I mean, hesitation in certain senses too. My mother, for one, could never really, I think, get her mind around the idea of being a professional, and she worried a lot about drugs. I obviously came up when I was little with listening to like a lot of like, late 80s rock, where it was all about like sex, drugs, rock and roll, and the whole like wild parties, and she'd be like, God, I don't want my kid to be like some coked out, STD laden, like wreck of a thing, because he got into like that rock and roll lifestyle or something like that. And I was, I never knew. I would always try to, that would be like our battle. She'd be like, don't listen to that music, it's talking bad against women, or it's like glorifying drugs and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's not what I meant it for. Like, I like the adrenaline, I like the feeling of it, I like the empowerment.
Freedom.
Yeah, the freedom and the excitement that it gives. It's just like life-giving.
Yeah.
And my father too was concerned about that, but more was sort of like, don't let anyone sway you. Don't let anyone try to make you feel that you're less than you are, than you are. Believe in yourself. Yeah, exactly. Follow your heart, follow your passion, and follow that bliss, whatever. Listen to what's in your gut. And let that steer you. Don't ever feel like you have to be derailed by someone else's agenda. And people will definitely try to do that, along the way. So yeah, parents definitely helped. Oh, that was probably, well, I mean, like I said, the bowler hat and that whole look came about on our first photo shoot, which we did with Lisa Gordon sometime, I think, in 2001. And we went down to this beautiful little coastal area called Castle Island in South Boston. And we had been thinking for, a little while, like, how do we want to present ourselves? If we're going to augment ourselves visually, how do we want to do it? What feels most natural? And so, like I said, drawing from those influences of like the kind of jazz age, in the kind of like, vampy kind of sexuality and that sort of thing. That's really where it came from. And then from there, we just sort of like decided to play it very impulsively, and whatever we wanted to wear on stage. The main thing was that we never felt tied to it. There would be plenty of shows where we go out with no makeup on or whatever, just kind of as we felt it, and that was nice. It was meant to be a tool for us to draw on that would pull more out of us. When I perform Missed Me or something like that, I can do it like this and have a great time. But when I've got a sort of hat with a brimmed kind of, swipe, or, whatever that kind of, a tie to fling and, fake like hanging myself or whatever, and Amanda's got extra, mascara on to bat those eyelashes so coily or whatever. Those wind up being really valuable assets when you're doing performance kind of oriented music. If we were just getting up and playing, straight instrumental stuff, it probably wouldn't be as pertinent. But to have that to help illustrate the music was was pretty key. But we, I think, decided to scale back sometime around 2004, the whole white face thing, as we felt it, because we saw that the fans were gravitating more towards that and towards wanting to mimic that, which was something that we didn't really sort of support. And it was, you sort of say like, that's cute and that's a good jumping off place, and we definitely invited the people coming to our shows to dress up and participate visually, but we didn't want to see as much mimicry, more more originality. So it became less binding, I think, our visual look. We sort of just decided to do whatever we felt at the time, and made sure that the kids coming to the show understood that as well, and that we encouraged, because I always sort of thought that a band's best mirror for checking themselves of what they're actually putting out into the world is sort of like how their audience responds and the kind of people that they're gravitating to. I feel like I can hear artists or musicians say like, I'm about this and I'm doing this and I'm preaching that, but really it's like if the people come to your shows, you're just going like beating the shit out of each other, or taking whatever the main aspect of that output is that's sticking with them. That can be good, and for us, we started to see a little bit too much of one thing, so we decided to help scale. But we've always tried to be very proactive with our audience. Anytime we would see people on our message board getting kind of elitist or exclusive and sort of saying like, well, you're not a real fan or any of that horseshit, we would put an immediate end to that and make sure that people realize this was about the music, about having fun, about embracing the whole experience in each other and what we each kind of have to add to this individually.
Very community vibe.
Definitely. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it was that drastically different in a certain sense. I mean, doing a van tour in the U.S. is, it's pretty cut and dry in a lot of senses. You sort of divvy up, who's gonna, how you drive and where you're gonna stay and all that kind of stuff, and you meet a bunch of great people along the way and stay, weird places and play weird clubs and eat bad food and do all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say it was that drastically different, and everyone had a good time playing on stage. So that was definitely a fun project to be involved in. Yeah, certainly. I really feel that Human Wine is doing something very much with the same kind of like spirit. It's something that I could relate to. In Boston now, and they're sort of carrying on in the same way. They don't have nearly the same kind of aspirations that Amanda and I had for the Dresden Dolls, and that was something that I learned, I think, being on tour. Then the performances and what they want to do with their music it differs drastically than the direction that Amanda and I went, which was kind of like spread it all over the world and go, kind of like and make it really big. They feel more, I think, at home having things in a sort of smaller sphere of control and a smaller spread and stuff like that, but they're doing great. I spoke to Holly the other day, and they're working with a violin player now. Human Wine is really great because they are constantly kind of reinventing their sound and working with different players. I think that's great. It keeps things really fresh too. So. I don't know. It's weird because I was actually sort of one of the first people to kind of throw something out there, and that was back for our CD release party in 2003. I remember I'm writing on our very old first draft of our little forum this kind of paragraph introduction invitation saying, Harky, anyone interested coming, here's the deal. And that was sort of like the intro paragraph of saying like, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for you to pull from within yourself something that what we did kind of in the band. What feels natural? What's an extension of yourself that you wouldn't normally present to the outside world? Take that and bring it to the show. And that kind of kicked it off. And from there, Amanda was like, great, now let's organize and get this thing happening all over the country. And we've worked with a series of different people, whether it's people involved in the performance scene in New York or LA, who've helped us coordinate. And from there, we've really kind of left it in the hands of the people to kind of bring us ideas and for us to kind of meet and seek out different things like that. So I have very little to do with the actual brigade stuff. I like, that we've sort of like planted the seeds, and now we go and, prune it here and there when it needs to be, but more or less let it be an extension of the fans, own inspiration and motivation and that kind of thing, and their own ideas. Yeah, sure. I mean, again, it's not like I sort of will necessarily come with lots of different concepts and stuff like that. But we sort of, these days in particular, I mean, I guess I would say, like, yes, I had more input back in the day when more things were coming from Amanda and myself. These days we work with a lot of outside designers and, fantastic graphic artists that we've met over the years. So my input will be like, oh, let's do this and stretch that out and make the font a little bit of that kind of thing, and less about sort of like, oh, maybe we should do this like kind of idea or decorate it like so. But and I kind of like it like that. Yeah. In a sense, Amanda and I, again, we share a very similar aesthetic appreciation, what we're kind of going for. So there's never really been any great quarrel either way to say like, oh, I want it this way, I want it that way. I usually am very happy to just kind of, nip and tuck and tweak a little bit, like if things go this and that way. I think more where my creative part comes into the band, visually at least, it might be like for photo shoots and stuff like that, and working a very much more kind of like spur of the moment thing. It's very consistent with how I work musically. I'm less about sort of like, I came up with this like great idea, I want to like make this idea happen. It's sort of like, cool, like whatever you got, throw it at me and I'll make it happen in my own through my own lens. And that's sort of the way like the artwork goes. Yeah. So all right, got this, pick some pictures of yourself. I say, well, this is how I want to represent myself. So take this and this and this and implement it. And the photo shoots will be like, we're going to shoot here. And I'll go, okay, great, I'm going to wear that. And musically too. Okay, you have these chord changes. Let me do this. And sort of that's, it's very very much like a collaborator kind of brain. So yeah, I don't really stress too much about how things go in here and there. I will. Generally, I probably get the reputation for the guy that will rein things in if I feel like they're going too far in a certain direction. I think I'm probably more the conservative one out of the pair of the two of us, and Amanda's more of the one who has 100 ideas a day, and then they get kind of pared down kind of thing. So it's good. It's kind of a check and balance system I think we have.